Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Bold Book of the Day. My name is Dr. Denise Nicholson. This podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. Today's episode is with one of my sisters, Anastarcia Palacious. Welcome, Anastarcia.
Welcome to me. I'm so happy to be here. And welcome to all of you who are watching. Shout out to my good friend Denise, who just continues to be a great source of inspiration and a bringer together of women and ideas and thoughts, and just a joy to know and to be around. It is truly my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Anastarcia Palacious is the author of A to Z, The Best Me, a television host, transformational speaker, and media coach. Anastarcia has over 70,000 hours of public speaking experience and has filmed over 750 episodes of live TV in the past 5 years. As a master storyteller, and I just love how you tell stories. She has coached over 340 international business leaders in 43 countries on camera confidence, public speaking, and style. Anastasia is a well known facilitator, having traveled around the world to moderate events for various organizations. She has been nominated for and won various awards. She's listed on the Grand Bahama Wall of Fame. Anastarcia is married with 2 children, and to learn more about her, you can go to her website, homeofstars.com. Please welcome this beautiful and talented and brilliant a beauty queen. Okay, I love you. I love your style, and every single time I see you, I fall in love over and over again.
The feeling is so mutual, Denise. The feeling is definitely mutual. And so I'm just grateful that we get to share space together, that we get to play together like this, that I've had the opportunity to write a book with you. You know, God is just, He was really good the day when He allowed us to meet each other.
Amen. It's true. I believe that 100%. My life has catapulted into a different trajectory, and I am so grateful every single time for the moment we all met. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. When you walked in the room, I was like, who's that girl? Like, you just have this positive vibe and aura and the beautiful essence about you. And I just can't wait for everyone to get to know you a little bit more so that they can see what I'm talking about. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you are here because you are part of this beautiful anthology. It's called Becoming Dynamic. And
Yeah.
oh my goodness, it was just a beautiful coming together. The way we met, putting the book together, publishing the book, having this wonderful Zoom launch. It was just amazing. And it just keeps getting better because we have some more things planned for this book. And so tell me a little bit about how you became a part of this project, Becoming Dynamic.
So Denise acts shy, but in reality, she's like, "Hey, girl, we're gonna do a book, and you're gonna write a chapter." And I was like, okay, no, Denise and I shared this amazing experience. We have, I know, this phenomenal coach by the name of Lisa Nichols, very powerful motivational speaker. But in addition to speaking motivation, she really is in the business of transformation. And she happened to have something called the Dynamic Women's Retreat. The book is called Dynamic Women, or Becoming Dynamic. And, we just got to meet each other there in that space. And coming out of that, Denise, who is so self-motivated, which makes her the great publisher and leader and coach that she is, she was like, we need to capture this experience in book form. We need to do something for the people that will never sit in a room like this, but need the transformation that words can bring. And when she showed me her vision for it, I was on board immediately. To know Denise is to love Denise. Her spirit is so infectious, and whatever she does well. And so knowing that I could carry my sister friends on a further journey, right, beyond the weekend that we'd spent together, into doing this work, seeing them again, hearing from them again, being in a group with them to talk about the book, was all a bonus for me. Sisterhood is a beautiful thing, and I found it with all of you. And so I was happy to be a part of the book and to just be able to just share one piece of a story that I was hopeful would empower women and even men who read it to become more dynamic, to know that they could fight for themselves, they could push themselves beyond their limits, and that by reaching out for help at crucial times, they could really soar and live a life that they never could have imagined.
You know, you are such a positive light, and your story is so empowering. I was wondering what kind of childhood cultivated this person that you became.
Thanks. That's a good question. So I think I'm really blessed. And I always tell people that I've had the greatest gifts that I think life can give you. And that's good parents. I had an amazing dad and still have a wonderful mom. And I grew up in a house with my oldest sister and my baby brother, who came many years later. My oldest brother was much older than we were, so he didn't grow up with us. But we would see him on weekends, and we thought it was like the best thing to go and get ice cream in his car, or So we both we came from a family structure that believed in family. So my mom had 4 brothers and sisters outside of herself. My dad had, I want to say it was 10 outside of him. So there was 11 total. And they both really believe in the fundamentals of family. They were Christians like I am. They raised us that way. And they just had certain core values that they always supported us in. In my dad's eyes, we were always the most amazing, the most talented, the smartest. And he insisted on that. I grew up in the Caribbean. I'm from the Bahamas, and that is a colonized nation, a formerly colonized nation. And so there were issues around, am I pretty enough because I'm Black? There are the things that you deal with coming from a colonized space. And my dad's story to us, my sister and I, were always, you're African princesses, you come from the Ashanti tribe. And, so we were fueled from a very young age to believe that we were awesome. And if people believe in you, then you tend to believe in yourself. And I think the other thing that really helped me in particular was that very early on, people recognized my gift of speech, mostly because I wouldn't shut up like now. And so because of that, fortunately, even though I did have teachers every year, the report card was the same, she talks too much. They also put me in like speech competitions and encouraged me to write stories and to be creative. And so because I had this really great village, this great community that saw gifting in me, it helped me to be confident in who I was. So I didn't know that I couldn't do things or that something was wrong with talking too much, because everywhere I went, people encouraged that. And so I think by the time as I got to more of an age of self-actualization and self-realization, I'd already been trained enough to know who I was in God and then who I was as a person. And I think that helped to just fuel me as I navigated the many challenges that you still face. Friends that leave you, lies, gossip, backstabbing, all of those things. At the end of the day, the core of you is still, you are African princess. You came up from the Ashanti tribe in Ghana. You are going to do amazing things because God is in you. You're so powerful. You're so beautiful. You can do anything. Then you believe it. And I just thank my parents for that.
Yes. Isn't that beautiful that was instilled in you from such an early age, because it really makes a difference in the type of personality that you become, in the way you accept certain challenges, in the way you strive for certain things, what you will set out to be in life if you are going to take a chance or take a risk, because you just believe so much in yourself from such an early age that what you're not afraid. Fear doesn't overwhelm you when you have to make a decision. You're like, okay, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and if it does, it does.
Well, I will say I still struggle with fear, and I think this came to me the other day. I was writing something out of my journal, and I mentioned I was a Christian earlier on, and one of the things that in Christian principles you talk about is this concept of idols and why you should not have them. And I asked myself, am I making fear an idol? Because if I'm always afraid of something, I'm giving it more power than I am belief, right? And so I don't want to say that I'm not afraid. There's certain things I know I'm good at. So in those areas, I feel quite confident. But there are many times that does not translate into maybe necessary action, or my action steps are delayed, or I self-sabotage because of fear. So it's a continuous journey, Denise. Even if you have confidence in one area, to be able to build that in other areas and to trust yourself and trust God enough to keep going, right? And so fear is still something I think that I continue to battle. And the more I recognize it and its power, the more I want to defeat it. So it's not that I don't have it. Wow. It's just that I try to move ahead with wise counsel, with guidance from the Spirit, and then to get out of my own way. Because there are times when I will definitely stop myself from being all that I could be.
But I'm glad you shared that with us. We all have a sense of, or certain part of us that will protect us. And fear is part of our protection. It is a built-in part that will say, don't touch the fire, it looks red hot, or you can go. But fear, it helps to protects us. And so that's a good thing. But then I would never know that you struggle with fear, because you are because your personality is so huge, and it just seems like you're not afraid of much. Like, you're not afraid to do things. You're not afraid to walk in a room and be who you are, and you're not afraid to take risk. You're not afraid to say what you mean. You just seem like this fearless person to me.
So I think my fair just look different, right? So
Yes.
one of the things that my parents also did, they were great cheerleaders of people. So we grew up in kind of with humble means, and they always wanted us to honor and respect everyone. They thought like the gardener is important, the security guard is important, the gas station attendant is important, the bank is important, the priest is important. Like, but we're all equal. We're all equal in God's eyes. And so even if life right now makes us look different, it doesn't matter. We still honor people. We still celebrate them. And I grew up in a house, like if somebody's kid had done something well, my dad would tell my mom, and we'd be in the car talking about how great that was. Or my mom would tell my dad, oh, my godson did this. And then we would celebrate him. And so I think because I come from a home where people genuinely love to see other people succeed, it's in me to just naturally just cheer on people. So I'm a natural cheerleader. And then because of my speaking abilities, and because I've been on television and I've done those things, and I've been doing it since I was so small, I can walk into a room and be fine. But what I actually had to work on was being intimate, like having real conversations and real relationships beyond surface. So I think it's very easy to walk into a space and be friendly. Hey, how are you? And then to forget a person in 5 minutes. Versus to actually let my guard down and build real relationships has actually been more of a challenge for me, because I had to deal with so many messy relationships earlier on because my personality is so large, So yeah, it's not always what it appears. It's certainly a growing process. And I'm just grateful that because I've been on this journey of becoming dynamic, of becoming bolder, of believing in myself more and healing those inner child wounds, that I get to recognize some of my flaws, but also some of my greatness, and try to figure out how do I continue to push the greatness in me while working on those things that have been holding me back.
Wow. No, I'm the total opposite of you. I can form a deep friendship within a short space of time. Yes.
This is true.
Because I can get in a room, really listen to someone, be empathetic, decide that this person, I love their values, I love what they're about, and I love their ambition, and I'm going to be friends with that person. Now, I do that so well that a lot of people think that we are just, we're the only friends. Like, us two are the only friends. For real. I've had a group of friends meet up together, and everyone is like, you're sitting beside me. Yeah. And I'm like, wait. So I'll just go around the table and keep moving myself, because everyone thinks that we are the closest, because I can really get intimate with people on a short space of time. Like, I do that.
You're so awesome. You really do it well. You really do.
Thank you. But I think that is a part of how I needed to be growing up. So I went from home to home when I was young, because my mother had left for, to go to America. And then my father died 6 weeks later. And so I had to be ushered to different homes throughout my childhood. And so I needed to feel like I belonged in these spaces. So I became, a good listener and a good child, because I wanted to make sure that I stayed in the home that I was. So I tried to do what I needed to do. So I think I learned to be a good listener in these homes, and to be a good friend. Even though I was with cousins and families, I still thought that I needed to be a good friend to these people. So that I think is what has aided me. Now, your chapter that you wrote, now I'm putting it together.
Yeah, you
because
are.
yes, because now I'm like, okay, you are your lifeguard. That has to
Yes.
do with fear and safety.
Yes, it does. It does. So in the book, I share a
Yes.
story from childhood. As I mentioned, we kind of, we grew up with great love of family, and I think that's the greatest wealth. But if you take that to the bank, that doesn't really count. And so we didn't have much on the bank side. But our parents did try to give us what they could, and one of those experiences was summer camp, more out of necessity because they had to go to work and they needed someone to keep us. And so my sister and I ended up going to this church was offering like a free summer camp. And parents without money got to send you where it's free, but it had the potential to be a great camp. Not the best experience that my sister and I had, and I think we only stayed there for maybe a week or two. But a part of that, Denise, was that we got to go to the pool. And the pool as a kid was like a big deal, right? And one of my good friends at the time, she would go to the YMCA that we had there every summer. And they had a really nice camp, and you could go swimming and you could do all these archery and all these things. That cost a lot of money. Didn't have it, couldn't go. But on this camp trip, because it was a church, the YMCA was letting them use the pool. And so we got to go to the pool. So I was in heaven. I was going to get to go to the pool. I'd get to come back and talk to my friend about the fact that I went to the pool. I was hoping I would see her there. And then I get into that pool, Denise, and I almost drowned. And it was a very scary experience, because a kid had come into the pool who could not swim. And as I was making my way across, he started to panic and just kind of latched onto me and just began to pull me under. And when you're going, and I think the reason I shared this story, because I think it's a metaphor for life, because you can just be moving along, you just go in, you get into the next side, and things are going well, you're going at your pace, and then all of a sudden something drags you, and you have it comes out of nowhere, you don't know what's happening. 1 second you're up and you can see what's in front of you, and the next second you are totally submerged underwater. And as this kid is pulling me down, he's doing so with the idea that if he pulls me down, he can climb on top of me, right? And he can therefore get air for himself by pulling me down. Whew, so much metaphors there, Denise, because even as a people, there can be this tendency to look at someone and determine, well, I don't like them, or even on the job, maybe to not help someone. There's this fight to, I need the air, so you have to go down in order for me to get it, even though the pool is huge, and if you could swim, you could find your own air, right? And so he just kind of held me down, and once I realized what was happening and that I couldn't breathe, I had to make the determination that I was going to have to fight for my life. And so that unfortunately involved me pushing him back down so I could get to the top. And in those brief seconds that I would try to scream for help, right? And it was hard because he would pull me back down again so quickly. And this, as a child, felt like it lasted a very long time. It might have been seconds, but for me, it was like an eternity, right? And you can just see the blue around you, and there's little bubbles going up, and you can't breathe, and you just have this weight that's holding you down, and you're literally fighting to climb on top of the weight and get back up and out there. But eventually I broke the surface long enough to scream for help, and somebody jumped in. I have no idea who it was that jumped in, but somebody jumped in and got us both out, and pulled us out of the water. And I say to people, like, so many of us are fighting these battles, Denise, right? Whether it is a marriage that's not working, or the desire to be married and not being there, whether it's children, and whatever season you're in with children, that can look different, but they can say and do things that hurt you. You can say and do things that hurt them. The lack of children is a pain in and of itself. There's so many things. There can be finances, sickness, whether you are sick or somebody that you love is sick. And all of those things can feel like they're just going to consume you. You're going to drown. And you have to be willing to fight enough to stay alive. And then even in being that lifeguard, for calling out for help. And I think that's a big thing that I also want people to take home from that story. While I did fight to break the surface, the fight ended in my survival because somebody jumped in and helped me, because I was child enough to call for help. And so may we always be man or woman enough to call for help when we need it, because somebody may not see that you're drowning.
Yes. Sometimes we don't realize what's going on in other people's lives. So we're not going to see that you're drowning. We're seeing that, oh, you're making it happen day by day, especially how we are established today, how we're set up today. We're looking at social media. We're looking, at what people are driving and how they're moving. And so we're looking at them like, oh, they're doing it. They're making it
Mm-hmm.
happen. You don't know that they're struggling, that they
Mm-hmm.
are literally pulling someone else down to try to stay up. And they don't
Yeah.
even know that they're pulling people down to try to stay up. They just know that if I grab onto this person or that person, if I latch onto them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll be able to get the air that I need to just keep afloat. Oh my God, you said
Yeah.
so many great things, and so you made so many great points. One thing you said was, um, sometimes what's happening to you feels like an eternity, even though it's happening for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Like, if someone's out there listening and you're going through a rough patch right now, it may seem like it's taken forever to get your breakthrough,
Mm-hmm.
to get that goal or that dream that you're working on. But keep working on yourself. Keep getting smarter, keep getting brighter, keep just working on putting things into you so that you can come through this dark tunnel and see what dreams and goals and all the things that you want are on the other side. Get those things, because it's not going to last forever. The time that you're going through right now that is so painful, it will not last forever. There's a person that says, I forget, um weeping may come at night, but it doesn't last. There must be a dawning, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Joy
Weeping
comes
and
in
joy
the
is, yeah.
morning.
Joy
Joy
comes
is
in the morning.
coming. So
Mm-hmm.
even though you're going through a dark patch, joy is going to come. It just seems like forever, but it's coming. It's
It
coming.
is. It
Just
is.
keep
It
working on
definitely is.
yourself. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for sharing. You also said, just call for help, girl.
You got to do it. And I think so many of us feel like, and it's not easy for everyone to ask for help. I remember when my husband and I got married, because I come from a family where maybe it's pride. I don't know how else to describe that, but if you can't do it for yourself, it's not going to be done. Like, we don't ask a
Mm,
bunch of people for favors. We're doing what we got, and we're going to make this work. But my husband comes from a family where they like just call people like, "Oh, I want an internship. Can I come and work with you?" I remember like the first time he was like, "Oh, you want something? Why don't you just call?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, why would I call somebody and say I need help?" Like, it shocked me like that was his process. And he's like, "But if you don't ask, how will you get it?" Right? And so for him, it was just like, you're not making sense, because the only way to get what you don't have is to ask for it. Right. And it's a biblical principle as well. The Bible says, seek and you shall find, knock the door will be
okay.
open. You have not because you ask not. You ask and do not receive because you ask the wrong intent. But it's very clear that if you ask, it will happen. And Denise, I have so
Yes.
many stories in my life where miracles, that's what I call them, have happened for me, and doors have
Yes.
opened and blessings have overflowed. And it's because I learned to ask, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I just say to someone, people don't know. They do not know. And they should know. They ought to know. That may be the case from your perspective, but you have no
Right.
idea what else someone else is doing. So on that day, if I were to blame like the lifeguards or the counselors that should have been watching us, oh, why did you let him come into the water? Why was he on me for so long? But there were like 60 other kids there as well, right? And
Right.
so you don't know what other things they were doing, monitoring, stopping other people they were pulling up from the water,
You
right?
never
And so
know. Yeah.
it's the same thing for the people in your life. Your friends should know. Your husband should know. Your wife should know. They should, but if they don't, and you're not getting the help you need, this is where you conquer fear as well. You're too
Yes.
afraid to ask because you're afraid of the rejection that they will not help. But you're not
Mm,
even
mm,
giving
mm,
them the
mm.
chance because you've not put it out there. So a large part of the story is a part of fighting for yourself is being vulnerable enough to say, "Help me, please."
Yes. Yes. You said that sometimes we think our loved ones should know.
Mhm.
But honestly, that's like telling somebody they should read your mind.
Yeah.
What I'm going through, because you love me, you should be able to read my mind. And
Mhm.
that is as ridiculous as it sounds, because you know we cannot read your mind. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, how am I going to help you if you expect me to read your mind? You have
Yeah.
to tell people, hey, I'm going through this struggle.
Mhm.
I can't give you too much detail, but I need help.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that is how you get to where you want in life. You reach out and ask. And like you said, the biblical principles that we were raised on, sometimes we misinterpret it and think that, okay, you ask for certain things, but some things you don't ask for.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you wouldn't
And you,
ask for, you'd probably ask your parents for something, but you'd never ask them to ask their friend to give you an internship.
yeah, I would not have, because that's just not how I was raised. But like, so many doors can be opened if you ask. Like I had somebody, send me a message the other day and they wanted something, and I said sure. And it was like, oh my God, you said yes. And I was like, yes, because you asked, right? Like, but if you had not asked, I would not know to like just give this to you.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
if you ask, you at least give the person an opportunity. And more than that,
Yes.
you give yourself an opportunity. And
Yes.
it's a part of this is, and this is why this book is about becoming dynamic. And if you read my
Yes.
story and you read the stories of others, hopefully you will pull from it different ways that vulnerability works. But
Yes.
Denise, it comes back to making sure that you're willing to take a risk on yourself. You're worth
Yes.
getting the help. Like you're worth being saved. Your
Ooh,
life
ooh.
matters, right?
Repeat that, please. You are worth
Yes,
being
you
saved.
are. You're worth
Oh,
being
ooh.
saved. Like your contribution to
Write
this
it
world
down.
matters.
Yes.
And whether
Yes.
you felt that in the past or not, like hear it from us today that you are worth becoming more than the present moment. And that may require
Yes.
that you ask for help. Now, let's talk about help, right? Because everyone
Yes.
may not be qualified in the same way or space to give you the help that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this is why it's important to start to like build those friend circles. It's important to follow people online that give
Mm-hmm.
you positive influence, like Denise and this
Yes.
podcast, which has featured some of my awesome sisters. You want to make sure that you're following them so that you can get continuous food to fuel that faith in you that you ought to believe in
Yes.
yourself, right?
Yes.
And so it may come in stages for you. It may just start with saying to someone, girl, I'm not doing well. I don't even know how to express what I need, but if you could just hold space for me, if you're a praying person, if you can pray for me, just because you may not have the words yet or even the trust levels necessary to tell everyone what's happening, but just to let people know, I'm dealing with something right now. If you have some grace for me, I'd appreciate it. Because not everybody's going to know. Not
Yeah.
everybody's going to see you drowning underneath the water.
Wow. Who are the most influential people in your life? Like
Good
three, at least
question.
three.
At least three. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, my husband, I love him a lot,
Yeah.
and he's brilliant. He's a geek. I love geeks. I always love nerds. That's always my thing. But he's really smart, and he has this amazing capacity to be calm in the most horrific circumstances and to not lose his cool at all and to just strategically think, okay, this is what we'll do and this is what we'll do. I admire that deeply. I admire his ability to continuously learn and read and listen. He's not a reader, but he's a listener. So he'll do tons of audiobooks and he'll write notes about them and then he puts stuff into action. He's very action oriented. If he says he's going to do it, he's doing it and he's doing it right now. So I deeply admire my husband and I think it causes me to want to continue to grow myself so that our relationship is one of equal yoking. He would be my number one guy. And then I also deeply admire um, Oprah Winfrey. I think she's a common one, but I love that Oprah has been able to transform her life the way that she has by being herself consistently. And I don't think it gets any better than that. And then I also really admire Tyler Perry. He's another one that I think has just done it. Like he started just with a consistent and relentless determination to pursue one dream. And then he
Mm-hmm.
allowed his faith to take that one dream, his faith and his work ethic to take that one dream and to turn it into something big. And I love connecting Oprah and Tyler because, Oprah is Tyler's mentor. And
Yeah.
many of the doors that have opened for him have opened because of that relationship. But the relationship
Yes.
would never have started had he not been willing to pursue relentlessly the thing that he wanted, even when it was not looking like other people expected, even when his mom said, Tyler, this don't make no sense, come home. Even when he had to live in his car for his dream, he did it. And now look at what he's doing today. So I think
Yes.
those would be three people that I would really like to shout out. And hopefully I'll get to hang out with Tyler and Oprah real soon.
What an A list. That is coming, honey. You never know what will happen in the future. You just never know. You never know what corner you'll turn and you're there sitting in their living room or on their platforms. Honey, it is coming. Okay. But just to see your husband listed among those people, it's just beautiful. And it just says what kind of character he has exhibited because to be in that those three A-listers those two A-listers, and to say he's an A-lister also. So to be among those people listed, I think that it says a lot about you and him, the kind of character that he has. And that's beautiful that you have children together and they will see this person daily living with this quality of these qualities that he has. And that's just beautiful. And it reminds me of when, this is so way off, but it still reminds me, and I'm going to say it because it reminds me when President Obama was going into the White House, and he and Michelle, they have the two daughters, Sasha and Malaya, and I was so hopeful for them. I was so excited that two little Black kids were going to grow up and spend 4 or 8 years in that environment. And I thought, oh my goodness, what richness they're going to become, what, because of their education and exposure. And I just thought, wow. But so I'm thinking the same thing now, like, wow, your husband sounds like he's so amazing. I can't wait to see what your children are going to do and become, because they have this really great person to lead them and mentor them into a great future. And wow, that
It's
just,
exciting. It's exciting. And
yeah.
I think for us, we don't know what our kids will be, but what I'm grateful for is because he and we work so intently on ourselves through coaching and through reading and community and God and just communicating with each other. What I'm hopeful for them is that we get to teach them coping strategies and thought processes earlier on than we learned them. So a lot of things we had to unlearn as adults, right? Behaviors that weren't helping us, mindsets, limiting beliefs. Like those are things that we had to conquer as adults, because as kids, you just have them. You just, whatever your parents have, they give you the best of what they have. It may not be a lot, but as a parent, I can truly say that you give the best of what you have with what you know. Now, that may not be the best, right, in the world, but it's your best because that's all you know.
Yes.
And so, so many things they just pick up on, you pick up on naturally that nobody ever has to teach you. It's observed and then it's absorbed, right?
Yes.
And so for these kids, like my son is 2. He's in the middle of temper tantrum season. And I'm just grateful that, we're going to get to the other side of the pool with the temper tantrums at some point. Right now we're in it. We're really in it. And my coping strategy for him, I actually learned, being on campus with our coach, Lisa, from another student who was really big on breathing and harmony and meditation. But I've taught my son and my daughter in their moments of frustration to pause, to breathe, to count to 10, right? And I watch it reset their body. I watch it reset their attitudes. And then I'm hopeful that they'll go on to make better decisions. So that's a technique now. The other day, he was being naughty and I got upset. And he said to me in his 2-year-old voice, "Mommy, count to 10. Breathe. Breathe."
Oh, that is beautiful. He's
Right?
learning.
He's
Yeah.
learning. He's learning. And so even his sister, who's a little older, if she starts to get upset, she'll walk away. And I hear her breathing deeply and counting to 10. And so it's a small thing, but I hope it translates in all areas of their lives, that because we're taking the time to become dynamic, because we're taking the time to invest in transformation, just taking the time to understand ourselves, to work on us. You'll never undo everything, but you're trying to just learn new things, that we get to impart that to them. And though they will obviously face their own challenges, they will at least have tools that we've given them because we took the time to learn them.
Beautiful. What about the woman that is out there, or the person who's out there thinking, you are awesome, you're amazing, and they're thinking that they could never become anything like you? What kind of advice would you give to the woman that feels like life is so tough, life is so hard, I could never?
So, I don't know if anyone can become like anyone else. That's the truth of the matter, because each of us have our own set of circumstances. We've all endured our own challenges. Like life just is going to look different. Even siblings living in the same house will tell a different story because their experiences may be different based on interactions with parents, based on interactions with teachers. So you're going to be different because what builds you, what made you up until this point has been different. But what is the same, I think, that I've seen consistently in those who've experienced transformation and breakthrough is mindset. And it is the idea that I talk about in that story with wanting to fight for myself and be that lifeguard for myself. Like, I'm going to live. I will not drown in this pool and you're not going to take me down. Like, I will do whatever is necessary to survive, right? And so for you, how do you can you translate that into your mindset? Like, okay, this may be where I am now. I don't like my circumstances. I don't necessarily like me. I think I may have a bad attitude. I may be negative. So how do I change that? It starts with mindset, right? And what you feed your mind is what's going to come out in everything that you do. And so for me, it's like you're on this podcast. You're already halfway there. Because if you stumbled on this page and you stayed, that means that you have what it takes to want to change, right? Because you're listening to content that produces change. So follow Denise. Like, go and look at some of the other episodes. Meet some of the other people that she's interviewed. What have they had to say? Follow them. Have they written anything else? Can you get those books into your space? Go to the library, which is free, and ask them, like, where is the positive affirmation section or the inspirational book section, right? And just take one book at a time, take one lesson at a time. If you're lucky enough, the average person will live until about 70 years old. And that means that you still have time to figure it out. Like, take it one day at a time, 1 year at a time, just implementing a new thing. This year, I just want to have peace. This year, I just don't want, anytime a negative thought comes into my mind, I want to stop and consider, where did that come from? And why do I feel that way? Like, just take these little things and break them into small goals, as your finances allow for it. And when I say this, if you can find money to spend on things that are not necessary, some of you may not be there. Like, you are really, or you got to ship grocery and like you can pay your light bill this month. I totally understand that. That's a different story. But if you are, taking out loans for things like clothes or shoes, like that type of money ought to be a loan for like a personal development session, some therapy, like those things that actually benefit your mind and soul. Because once you get your mind right, you're going to realize that things will start to change. One of the books I want to recommend for you is called The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Oh,
I love that book, girl, Denise. That is my
so
book.
that was on our book list for this year. We just read that in January. Yes.
Awesome,
Yes.
awesome. If you
Yes.
read it with Denise, then you know how good it is. But in
Girl.
it, Shonda changes her attitude and starts to say yes and starts to do different things. She realizes that like she doesn't have stuff in common with certain friends anymore because their attitudes were different, because their mind was different, right? And so you will see some shifts and changes. You're going to start to attract greater blessings. You're going to start to attract a circle of people that will open more doors for you, because doors are just opened by people, right? And the more that you are self-aware and the better that you become, the more people are going to want to be around you that can do those things for you. And so it's a process, right? It's long, but life is long. And so you deserve to give yourself a chance every day to get better. So choose one thing and work on that. Find the groups to support you, the virtual teachers, the virtual leaders. You can follow our mentor, Lisa Nichols. You can find her inspiration on YouTube. You can, if you look up to people like Steve Harvey, whoever it is, there are people out there. Some of my favorites, I follow a pastor by the name of Darius Daniels, absolutely mind-blowing, amazing communicator and leader and thought leader. For a season when I needed to like leave my corporate career and I wanted to go into entrepreneurship, I would only listen to Joyce Meyer and Joel Osteen because I needed Joel to tell me, you're so awesome. You're so amazing. I needed someone who could speak into me what I needed to believe. And so it's the same for you.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can do anything. And I needed that. So find that for you and put it into your spirit. Write your affirmations, say them aloud, and give yourself the time, because change is a process. And as the process is processing you, it is preparing you for what has been prepared for you, right? So it takes the time, but as you're going through that process, you're going to be, releasing some old things, gaining some new things, and just trust that all things will work together for your good in the end. But it starts with you making the choice today that I want to see a change in my life, and then being aggressive enough to fight to get to the top, break that surface of water, and scream for help.
Oh my God, beautiful. We could just keep you here all day. Okay. But then you have your two beautiful children waiting and your husband. So thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for just taking the time to focus on the audience and pour into them. You can't pour into people when you don't have enough. So you can tell that this lady is filled and overflowing because she is pouring into us today. And we thank you so much. Before you go, there are 3 questions that I love to ask my guests. And I'd like to do this because, I get to find out some things about you and I get to find out how deep you're thinking. And I really just appreciate finding out some of the things that you plan to do in the future. So one of the questions that I like to ask my guests, one of the 3, What is one bold promise that you can share with the world that you know will help them live a better life?
All right. So I am a Christian, and obviously you may have your own faith, but mine is the thing that grounds me. It is the anchor that holds for me always. And so that bold statement for me is going to be, it's two in one, right? The first part being, all things work together for the good of those that love the
Ooh.
Lord and are called according to his purpose. So even when it's hard, even when I don't see it, even when I am at the bottom of that pool and someone is pulling me down, this gonna work for my good. I am going to break this surface. I'm gonna call for help. I will get out of this, and it will work for my good. And then today, I get to
Yes.
tell that story, right? And so all things work together for the good. And the other is that he will never leave me or forsake me, and
Ooh.
that is so important, that even in the midst of being under this water, he's with me, like, and he's
Oh,
fighting with me and fighting for me. And so I think, you know if you don't have a faith, I want to encourage you to find one. People who have faith tend to live longer, healthier, more productive lives. You can do some research on it if you don't believe me. I, in particular, want to welcome you to the faith of Christianity, which I think is so beautiful and goes beyond this life. But those are the two that ground me and that keep me going every day, because I know it's all working together for my good. What a beautiful promise to live up to.
yes, I love that. And I love that because sometimes you don't know that what you're going through, or most times you don't know that what you're going through can be a stepping stone for your success. But you just said, and this is also because, the we have a biblical foundation, and we've learned that these principles help us. So she's sharing something with you that this promise is one thing that you can always take with you, whatever you're going through right now, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult, no matter how traumatic. You can one day know that it will be for your good, because all things will work for your good. Oh, I love
Mhm.
it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Please write it down. Please write it down. Okay. And implement that in your life. Just start to say that over and over. It's an affirmation. And if you use
Mhm.
that daily as this positive affirmation, it will help you when you're going through difficult times. Wonderful. Now, number two, what is a bold statement that you can share with your audience that you know will cause a paradigm shift?
Yeah. So this one I actually got from my mentor, Lisa Nichols. It's called Action is the Antidote to Despair.
Ooh.
Action is the antidote to despair. I wrote this book with Denise, but I have another book out there called A to Z to the Best Me. And it's the A for me in that series. It's of devotionals and just reflection pieces. And the A is for action. And I found myself at a time in my life, I just had my daughter, and my husband was very busy with building his team and his office. And I was he had done nothing wrong, but because I felt so lost in who I was frustrated. Um, and then I realized that I had to take the action to make my life what I wanted it to be. Like, I could stay in despair, I could stay depressed, I could stay frustrated and snappy for no reason, because you've given me no reason. This is legit my problem. It is me, not you.
Yeah.
Or I could do something about it. And so even now, when I find myself being irritated, being upset, feeling depressed, it's like, okay, but where is this coming from? And what am I going to actually do now that I have the realization that this is how I'm feeling, right? And so the minute you
Mm-hmm.
start to move, so even if you're feeling overweight and you go for a walk, you feel something about yourself. If you have been, just feeling down and you talk to a friend, that's an action step. You feel something about yourself. Even in the good book that Denise and I talk about as a foundation, like Jesus, when he would heal people, they had to do something. He would say, okay, go into the place and wash, or
Mm-hmm.
they would come and find him and touch his garment. Like, there was an
Yes.
action step that made the shift in their life before the miracle could
Yes.
take place. So I would
Yes.
say to you, action is the
Yes.
antidote for despair.
Even when you can't see your way out, because in
Yeah.
the Bible that we're
Mm-hmm.
referencing, there was a blind man.
Mm-hmm.
He could not see.
No.
And Jesus spat on the ground, made some
Mm-hmm.
clay, put it on the guy's eye, and said, "Now I'm sending you down to the river to
Mm-hmm. To
wash."
wash it.
Now, how he gonna find his way to the river, Jesus?
He could figure it out. He got to figure it out if he want to see, and he did. So he saw.
And he figured it out. So for you who you are listening and you feel like I can't even see where I'm going, you're telling me to stay focused, find, ask for help. I don't even know what I need help with.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, try to figure your way out.
Mm-hmm.
Find a goal That
Mhm.
is you figuring it out, saying, I want this thing, and then take action
Mhm.
daily to get to
Mhm.
this thing. That was the blind man found his way to the river
Mhm.
and washed. He didn't even drown, okay? The man came back and gave testimony. He came
Yeah.
back and gave testimony. Everybody was like, wait, 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 wait. Aren't you the guy that was blind? I know you.
Mhm.
I know you. For the
Mhm.
past 20 years, you've been blind. How come you're seeing? And he's given testimony. Listen, the man named Jesus, he did this thing and told me to go wash, and now I can see. They had to go find his
Mhm.
parents. So the same
Mhm.
thing with you. You have to find your way, take the action that you need to take to so your eyes can be open so you can see. Oh my goodness, that is so perfect. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. I have one more.
Sure.
So, thank you. This is really good. I love it. What's a bold move that you'd like to make in the future?
Hmm. That is a good question. You know what came to my mind the other day that I think I want to honor and follow up on? I'd like to do a retreat. I'd like to do a retreat for women. I've not done one before. And I'm thinking a 3-day weekend somewhere beautiful where we can journey into transformation together, much like the space you and I met each other in. So I think that that's
Yeah.
one bold action step that I would like to take.
Oh my goodness. It feels so good to run a retreat. I do the Quantum Leap retreat, and
Mm-hmm.
I did one last year, and I'm doing one. We're going to South Africa this year. And let me tell you, to hear people say that this is their breakthrough, or they never thought of this thing, or this moved them to think a different way. They can forgive their loved ones. They've moved past a barrier. Oh, it feels so good that you were able to implement that. So I think you should go ahead and plan that, and come back and tell us about it. You have to come
Definitely.
back. You have to come back and talk about A to Z. It's called, what is your book called again?
A to Z to the best me.
A to Z to the best me. Please come back and talk to us about A to Z to the best me. And then when you come back, please announce the dates of the retreat.
Gotcha. Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Now we know how to push some buttons around here and get people to commit and make those dreams come true. Oh, it's been such a pleasure to just have this moment with you. I haven't seen you in so long, and I can't wait till we meet up again. For you guys, you've had the pleasure of listening to one of the most influential personalities that I know. I absolutely love her. She tells the best stories. I listen to your lives, and sometimes I review them. Like, I'll go back way, way, way down because I just love how you I love how you tell a story, girl. So I
Thank
will
you,
I will
Denise.
just go back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why I do that, but I am that kind of person. Like, if I into someone, I am really into them. So if you would like to connect with Anastarcia Palacious, please, Anastarcia, give us your handles. How can these people connect with you and just continue to grow and learn?
Sure. So you can find me at Home of Stars. And, my team and I came up with that name many years ago, long before I met Lisa, long before I met Denise. In the beginning phases of me becoming dynamic, I knew I wanted a space where people could just take a deep breath and feel at home being themselves, feel at home shining their light confidently, just feel at home like maximizing their full potential and being the star that I think everyone is. And so everyone calls me star, but everyone is a star, right? And so I wanted that. So it's Home of Stars because that's where you belong. And you can find me at www.homeofstars.com, but also Home of Stars on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And then if you want to connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn, it's Anastarcia, Anastarcia. I'd be happy to chat with you, to learn more about you, and of course, to help you in any way that I can as you journey into transformation and to becoming your dynamic self.
Thank you so much. And please read her chapter in Becoming Dynamic. And just to get to know a little bit about her story, I know we talked about it today, but you have to read it because it's so powerful, so impactful, and it's life changing. You get so many gems from reading the story. So I can't wait for you to pick up your copy and read that chapter and all of the other chapters. This is such a great book because it's filled with women sharing their triumph even after they have been so despair. So thank you so much for coming out and sharing your gems and participating in this book. I appreciate you. Thank you for saying yes, and I can't wait for everybody to listen to or to get a copy of A to Z to me. A to Z to me. You have to
A to
come
Z,
back and
that's me.
to the best me. You hear that? To the
Yeah.
best me. And it sounds like a step by step guide. So I can't wait for you guys to get that and just work on yourself and become the best version of yourself. Yes, so pick up your copy of Becoming Dynamic. Look at our book. Yes. So you can read Star's chapter and all of the other chapters. They're really inspiring and impactful, and they bring hope. So pick up your copy or join us at our Barnes and Noble book launch where we're doing our in-person book signing, and join us on June 23rd between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you would like to write a book and publish it, please send me an email at authordnicholson@gmail.com. We all have a story to share, and it's so important to send your message out there because it gives hope and inspiration to others. Anything before you go?
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. You were such a joy, and it was such a pleasure to write this book with you and with our sister friends in the hopes of just empowering you, the viewer. Thank you for watching if you've watched this far. And remember that there is nothing that you can't do because all things work together for the good.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.